Hu Zhao here. I'm a professor at Purdue University. I have been involved in the development of this iNEMI LCA estimator tool in the past like 10 years, starting from phase 2. So, talking about the harmonization effort, I think this is definitely needed. My question is, how can we make sure industry eventually will adopt this kind of, standard or roadmap? And also, is there a plan to develop some, product category rules?
Yes, it might turn out that in the end we come to some product category rules, just as you say, maybe on a less formal level than even so, rather calling it sectoral guidance, because also here we do not need to duplicate what is out there already. But coming up then with, let's say, a minimum standard and consensus on which standards we should follow. So from the discussions we had so far, ISO 14040, 44 is, well, somehow the baseline for everyone, although people then are talking mainly about carbon footprint only, but most recently, then also, or for a while already, then also the alignment with the greenhouse gas protocol. So the terminology and requirements from there are relevant as well to combine the product carbon footprints with the company carbon footprints. I would say the ETSI ITU standards are a bit less broadly used yet. The IEC technical rule 62921 is basically what PAIA is following. So this will be definitely something which will be then also a kind of framework for what we are doing here. HEF has been discussed because there was then also the mentioning that in various regions worldwide, there are also policy initiatives going on, and the product environmental footprint in Europe might play a role. Well, latest indications we have is that there will, in the short term to midterm, not much progress in product environmental footprints for this particular product group. So we most likely will not cover compliance with general PEF requirements. So we will not develop product environmental footprint category rules for semiconductors or ICT also. But indeed, kind of long story short, kind of category rules, which are then the baseline on which most of the relevant players here can agree. This is then the ultimate target.
Thanks, Kirsten. Other comments or questions that are focused on this? You'll be able to ask some more later too. I have no issue. I just want to, if there's a one more question for Kirsten, we can do that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tom. Okay, so Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you for your comments and thoughts and things as one of the project leaders. Fu was also a project leader with Tom on the last phase, where we did the work of updating the tool and migrating it to a database structure at Purdue. But Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So it's good hearing from what we had as a compilation, as you see here, and a summary over the past decade in working this. I want to make it clear, though, that the LCA estimator is not data sets of the actual eco impacts associated with all of the different inputs and outputs. Those are in tools like Eco-Invent and SEMA Pro and Gabi, that's made now by Sphera. And really what we've done is we've taken results, which are the actual eco-impact results. And in this case, we've used global warming potential and climate change as the one to provide the results in terms of, so what is it for a pound of aluminum grade 6063? What is it for a pound of copper in a foil form? What is it for one diode or one integrated circuit with a certain die size? And what the tool basically is it takes that and allows someone to model based on, well, I got 10 diodes, I've got 5 of these kinds of ICs, I've got a certain board size with so many layers. So it's really an additive process to take all of these results and pick and choose whether using the database tool or the spreadsheet. And we had both, because what we did was we typically developed things in the spreadsheet format because it was easy for everyone to do. And then that was also the initial tool that we had when we first started on this project 10 years ago. The database tool came into play when we decided to have something that people can use and make different configurations and iterations of, because it was stored in that database. And that's when we went in the third generation of the project in developing it with Purdue University, and Fu Zhao and myself, we got together and we said, let's incorporate all of these results in a database format with SQL Server. And so that's where it sits now, as a database format with Purdue University. And we also maintain the spreadsheet because some people still like just to have the easiness of just using a single spreadsheet and using it as a tool to work on a particular product or a project. But I wanted to reiterate that the key here is that it's a compilation of output results of different kinds of materials, different kinds of components, and then you do that for the different stages in which you do a life cycle assessment. So you have the manufacturing stage, you then have when you're distributing the finished product and installing it, then using the product, and then once it reaches an initial end of life, what's the disposition of the product at that point. So the key for us, though, is that the results have to be maintained. They have to have currency, contemporary information. And what we've tried to do is make it so that we can refresh and update from whatever industry members are doing and collecting or using. So in the last go around, iteration 3, as I said, we were getting information from some members, like with plastics and with certain kinds of plastics that they were using in a complex form with dual injection molding, even using a certain level of recyclate materials in there too. And so we were trying to capture from industry these results and include that in both the spreadsheet and the database tool. And that's what you have today. Now, it only looks at, as I said, climate change, carbon, because there's so much data out there and we wanted to keep it just to one eco-impact. And so that's why we kept it to climate change, global warming potential, and everything in the tool relates to that. We felt that, though, maybe going forward, there would be other eco impacts that we would want to incorporate in the tool, but then you'd have to do it for all of the representative materials and components that are in there. So it's not an easy task. It's a very complex, difficult task to pull all that information together, because you don't want to have it incomplete. You want to have a complete set. So that was something we always felt that maybe we want to do. And one of the additional eco impacts we were thinking of was water use. But there could be others. Land use is another one that's gaining a lot of importance. So between climate change and water use and land use, maybe those are three that you can focus on. But pulling together all of the results, as I said, of all the different types of materials and components. Now, Kirsten mentioned that a lot of work needs to be done, especially in the area of compiling this for ICs, integrated circuits. And indeed, the last go around, we tried to do that, and we were getting information from some of our members like Intel. But I do think that going forward, because we want to show and demonstrate that our industry is doing great things in the supply chain upstream, and all of our suppliers are really trying to incorporate sustainable energy sources, energy and material efficiency in their processes, and even using recycled materials in their front end source materials, I think is a way to demonstrate that the scope 3 and also the suppliers scope 1 and 2 are coming down to make these materials and components. And then collectively, if we can get that information, I think it would be in our best interest to put it in our tools so that we can then demonstrate to our customers and to society as in general that we are doing great sustainability efforts in the supply chain and that the impacts are going down. So getting contemporary data is very, very important, and it's something that we should be driving for. So as I said, getting up-to-date results, maybe going for other eco-impact indicators like water and land use, and trying to get the most contemporary information that we can, especially in the ICs, in the printed wiring board, the bare board making, and discrete semiconductor components. Those are really where a lot of the integration is happening. Especially that we get down in ICs, they're getting down in the single digit tech node, which means we're getting down below 5 nanometer in line width. And that takes a huge amount of process equipment, very, very specialized. We're working with the latest cutting edge technology in lithography and, making the dies and then in packaging them as well in chip scale packaging, stack dies, all of that. This is what we need to collect. So I welcome the opportunity, as Carson mentioned, to see if there's any way we can work with other groups that are trying to put their arms around all this innovation, all the new data, and compiling that so we can then run these kinds of tools. That I think is what we really want to do. And again, the end result to show that our industry is driving toward more sustainable processes and efficiency. So I'll stop there and I'll take questions.
So I have one just as a hopefully maybe starting off here. Tom and others, if there's one key, I'll say gap, but maybe it's opportunity. If there's one key gap and or opportunity that needs to be closed or developed, what would that be that would help not only this tool but maybe all tools? And so one of my, I'm thinking along the lines of, can we get to a centralized database of all of this core data that we're talking about need, so that we're all pulling from the same data and we're all getting maybe not the same results, but have the same baseline to start with as we start down the idea of the standards on the algorithms and those kind of things for that. Is there a key objective, like if there's a single thing that we could get our hands on that would make our lives better What is?
Yeah, to me, it's, and I'll start and others can chime in. It's common data sets that we can all work together on and use, and contemporary data sets, ones that reflect, as I was saying, the level of sustainability that we know our industry is trying to incorporate through the supply chain. We know because as an OEM, Nokia is driving their suppliers to do this, and we need now to start capturing it and then rolling those numbers up into results that then we can plug in and say, here's our product that we build, and here's how it's improved, how it's made better now as compared to previous generations. So trying to get those and have it commonly shared so that all of our industry is able to use it. That to me are the two most important things. I'll let others chime in.
Dustin, it looks like you've got your hand up. Go ahead. You'll need to unmute yourself. You should have mic control though. If not, I will. Let's see. Is it gonna let me unmute?
Is he not able to unmute?
I don't
He
know.
can't unmute.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
I can't unmute.
Maybe he can type in his question.
Type
his
in your
response.
question. I'm going to
Yeah.
move to Prashant, and then if I can get you unmuted, I will get you unmuted. Sorry. So, Prashant, can you unmute?
Yes, I can unmute.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you, Mark and Tom, for pointing out that as we move to the smaller technology nodes, advanced technology nodes, like even 5 nanometer or 3 nanometer, 2 nanometer, and because moving to those technology nano nodes, previously we had like 40 nanometers, and then and more than that, it started with 200 nanometers and those kind of technology nodes. But what we have observed is as the technology node gets reduced, say from 40 nanometer to 5 nanometer, the electricity footprint of the technology node that gets increased, and so that has impact on the carbon emissions as well. And from a fab standpoint, from a manufacturing fab standpoint, for lower technology nodes, these EUV machines, as you mentioned, Tom, in your slide right now, in your talk right now, those lithography machines, those EUV machines, they have a very high electricity consumption than the traditional conventional machines that were used for lithography, for like maybe 50, 60 nanometer nodes for larger nanometers nodes. So thanks for highlighting that, because that is something we have also found through our studies that might be an important aspect for the global warming potential.
Absolutely. It's going up exponential, if you may say, but what they put on a chip now these days is going up exponential and maybe higher. And the good news is that what we're seeing is our functionality is so much greater on capacity, throughput, low latency, because everything's now, miniaturized, that our boards are shrinking, or we maintain the same size board, but we're packing what used to take 3 or 4 separate pieces of equipment is now all incorporated in one piece of equipment. And so footprints going down, if you may say, to do the job and provide that capacity or those tasks. And that's the good news. But we do have to then truly demonstrate and capture what they're doing in these die fabs. And I mean, there's a whole, U.S. CHIP Act is going to be making more fabs, but they're much, much more complicated to build, just from a standpoint of being able to make these things so small, from anti-vibration to ultra clean water, and the machines that have to be designed and developed. Yes, you make a lot of chips with them, but still, what is the yield, et cetera? We need to know all that information. And that's going to be crucial.
So would you classify that, just so I'm trying to figure out, as the need for more primary data and details of
Oh yeah, primary data, number
basically?
one. Yeah,
Okay.
in any
All right.
way
I'm just trying
that
to figure out how to capture
our
that here.
industry can share it, and respecting the propriety of its nature, but still the end result is showing that, what we're trying to achieve is chips that do much more functionality at much lower energy. Yes, it takes a whole lot more to make these chips and get the yields up, et cetera. But that's what we need to demonstrate, is that we're driving this in a sustainable direction. And the only way we can do that is we got to get data and share data. So that's why I welcome, Carson working with IZM and others, and all of the chip makers, anyone who are willing to help, whether it's through PAIA or any other group, or the Semitech group, whatever it may be.
Okay, thank you. Dustin says he has his mic under his control now. So
Right.
Dustin?
Yep, so should be able to hear me now, but
Yes, sir.
yeah, so thanks. So just to, kind of comment on the, the kind
Right,
of the
please
needs.
identify who you're with, Dustin.
Oh,
I know who
yes,
you
sorry.
are, but not everybody else does.
Yeah, this is Dustin Dimitriou from IBM.
Great.
So, just to comment on kind of the need, I don't disagree with anything that's been said, right? I mean, I think the product carbon rules are necessary. Unfortunately, the first thing somebody tries to do with this data is use it for a competitive advantage and compare one product to another. And, despite mine and many others' best efforts on saying that, product carbon footprint numbers are not really used for comparing my product to your product, that's how it's being used. So I definitely see that as a need. I guess from the OEM perspective, I think there's two things. One is absolutely having data that's relevant and current, that reflects current products. I can't argue more about the need to do that. And that's part of the reason why IBM, we're members of the iNEMI, we're members of PAIA, right? Because I think different companies, different organizations are doing bits and pieces of this. So I think that's definitely important, that we're all working from kind of the same set of data. But the other thing I think that it's really important also is, our product sets are unique, right? Servers or whatever, storage equipment, whatever, right? And I do think we need a tool like the iNEMI spreadsheet or the Purdue tool, or the PAIA tool that is customized to this industry, right? So I don't want to, if we're just going to build the database and then every company has to go and build their own front end for that tool, I don't know that that's very useful either. So I just don't want to lose the fact that I think there is a lot of value in whether it's the spreadsheet or the tool hosted by Purdue or the PAIA front end, right, that is customized to how somebody would do an analysis for an electronics product, right? I mean, they're very complicated. So I just don't want to lose sight of that piece of this too. That's also very important.
Yeah, very good, Dustin. I agree. I mean, yes, our tool tries to provide a means to look at electronics products, but do we capture everything? Obviously not even yet, because there's different types of components. So displays, for instance, I know the PAIA group has worked in the display area, but in the iNEMI, we haven't, just partly because of who our membership, and the activities we were doing there. But we can certainly incorporate it. Batteries, we can incorporate that. A lot of work going on in battery chemistry, IBM especially doing great stuff. These are the kinds of things maybe we can add in, but we need the information, we need the data. That's the key thing.
Okay. Good notes. Matilda, I see you have pardon if I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry.
Hey, thank you.
See your turn. Go ahead. Please identify yourself as well.
Yeah, Mathilde Billot from Fraunhofer IZM in Berlin. I fully agree that we need more primary data, but also maybe then we should be able to aggregate data to also model some standard chips, for example, so that we can compare products, because it's also very difficult to compare the LCA of products because they also do not have the same performance and the same capacity, memory capacity, CPU, GPU, and so on. So potentially, yeah, aggregated data for specific standard chips like CPU, GPU, memories, and so on. That would make so that we have a common also understanding on how we can also assess this kind of chips.
Great. Yep, I agree. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from folks? I mean, this call is meant to be for you and me a little, and iNEMI a little bit, so that we know where to go. But I'm trying to figure out what is it we want to be focused on. I mean, I think one thing I missed going over that I did here that are just some things that are missing today in our tool. These two bullets here under objectives, I know there isn't certainly in the database tool some tactical things regarding we don't have a good report out functionality within the tool today. A lot of folks like the spreadsheet a little bit better because it's a little bit easier to pull the data out and then make it look pretty if you're going to share it. So there are some gaps in just what our tools do today. And then we don't have a robust set of instructions on how to use the tool. So I know that's been an issue for some folks. So I mean, there are some tactical things that I have captured from previous discussions. Just want to let you know we haven't forgot about them. I just didn't highlight them in other places. But those are some things that are the tool needs to be user friendly as best as we can. From not only the use piece, but also the output piece, so that data can then be used in sustainability reports, given your suppliers, whatever you want to do with it. So I think there are some other use end use things that we need to work on tactically as when we do our next update.
And the database tool takes programming, and obviously when we did it the first time for the database tool, I don't think it was the most efficient way that we could have had it done, and I think it needs to have a good look at with programming capabilities to make it more robust, so that we can get data set changes in there much easier, and also get things like output results and formats, and in the input too, the screens, etc. Probably could use improvements there. But that takes programming.
Yep.
And I'll admit, I'm the first one. I'm not a programmer. I work in spreadsheet. That's it. But that's my limit.
I'm just sort of trying to put a little notes in here because I think that's good. Let's see. I see a hand raised from Dustin and Dale. So Dustin, so you've already had one question. I'm going to let Dale go first, even though you beat him to the punch. So Dale.
Yeah.
And
so
please
Dale
identify
Lee with
yourself.
Plexus Corporation.
Thank you.
And some of the things that we're looking for with the use of the tool is supporting the use life side of it, and the big drivers there are we need to be able to more represent regional power creation from an LCA. Regional things like within the U.S. we have great differences between the types of carbon depending upon where regionally we are in the U.S., whether there be water or renewable or coal or natural gas type power creation, which is completely end use of the tool for its life cycle predictions.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is we'd like to see is expanding the transportation methods. Stuff coming from Asia to the West Coast gets typically shipped by train to the East Coast and not by truck, which is completely
intermodal,
lower.
right? Yeah, right. Yeah,
expand the intermodal transportation capabilities would be much improved as well, especially with other regions now where we're starting to see more and more electric transportation in certain other regions of the world, like Europe and stuff, where they're shipping via electric transport versus electric diesel transportation type train.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in our tool that we use within Nokia, we have a much more robust tool that we have, but it's just within Nokia. We have like intermodal transport and also overrides for use stage where you can put in a customer's energy mix, because a certain customer may be using a product and say they're buying with certain amount of renewable energy credits that they're purchasing, and so their mix is different. Yeah, so you want to customize that input, right?
Yeah, that whole side of things. The air transport is another one that's I'm starting to really delve into, because how do I want to say, intercontinental transport air is completely different from carbon based than is a regional transport air.
Right. Plus, we are starting to be able to choose biofuels for air transport. So you would need to be able to plug in an override for that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we start to get these electric drones going, then we got to start figuring all of those out as well.
Yeah. So, a new mode.
Yeah. And the whole new mode. So,
drone mode.
Yeah. And then the only other thing is, I was kind of touched on, is the blending of materials. Can we change the mix from a recycle standpoint content? Because we deal with different customers, and the amount of recycled plastic varies greatly depending upon the plastic in the mix allowed. So even some of the recycled metals are the same way. We're starting to run into those now, especially for the injection molded metals.
One of our other members had given us input regarding dual injection molding and things like that, and some with recyclates. And we were actually thinking, is there a way to create like a slider bar, so you can set 20%, 50% recyclate, whatever it may be. Because really it would just be a mixer. Yeah. Again, fancy programming. We could do it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I used to work in the steels industry, and I used to have to manage the mix of recycles going into the furnaces and stuff. So it's like, I'm very familiar, unfortunately, with metals. So, but those are some of the things that the people that I've been interfacing and my customers are asking for.
Yeah, good input. Thank you.
So I do want to remind everybody, I did make this a 90-minute call, so we do have another 30 minutes. So I certainly welcome your attention. If you do have questions, or you see this and you think about other things you want to do, please make sure you email them to me so we can sort of collect all of that. My email is marks@inemi.org for those of you who don't know. Dustin, I still see your hand raised. I'm guessing that's a new question.
New question. It popped into my head when you brought up documentation, right? So the other thing I think we're starting to see more and more of, for example, if you're familiar with the EP, program in the US, right? There was some work at the end of last year talking about the need for third-party verification of these types of tools. I see that as something that's going to be coming and needed. And, I don't know how you do that and what you do, but I do think whatever tool, quote unquote tool or tools the industry comes up with, somehow will have to address the need for third-party verification of the methodology and the tool. So,
yeah, right. So the data sets from some of the different providers there, like SEMAPro and all, and Gabby and all, they have been going out and getting third-party verification and verification to in some cases, you can get it with the European Union, the PEF 3.0 version results, which is something that in the European area, European Union especially, if folks know what's going on in France, they passed a law called AGEC, AGEC, which they want to have the entire network modeled and represented as far as what does it take from a carbon standpoint to move a message through the network or something. And they're promoting like the PEF output model there as the results point of view. So what we've been doing is trying to see if we can work with some of the these LCA impact assessment groups that are doing the work, and as they are starting to get new data sets, they're going about getting that third-party verification and everything. But now we get into an issue about licensing and things like that. So that is something we'll have to address if we want to use them going forward. Hello?
Sorry,
I'm
trying
sorry. There
to
was
think
some
here.
silence there. I wanted to make sure I was still
No,
connected.
you were still connected, yeah.
Okay. Any other input?
Yeah, please
And
don't
one
be
of the
shy.
other things I do want to mention too is two things actually. A home. I know Purdue University has been doing that, but is there maybe a potential better point location for having a future home combined with other information and other users? And second, funding, any kind of available funding that's out there from governmental standpoint or a consortium effort that maybe could help in tapping into that we can apply for and maybe do this kind of an effort. So I'll leave that open to anybody.
Yeah, so Fu, I know you came onto the call a little bit late. I tried to describe sort of at a very high level, the situation at Purdue in terms of updating the tool and graduate student support. I don't know if you want to comment upon that at all, and I don't want you to feel like we're trying to push Purdue out, because we're not. But I know your resources are limited the way it's structured today. So
well, maybe Fu, you have an announcement to make.
Yeah, maybe Fu has an announcement. There's that too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no. So yes, the student who worked on this tool, graduated last year.
Right.
So based on the experience, I would say probably, we are not really, the correct place to really host the tool. So because, we don't have something, a permanent staff member available to do this. And, every time a student graduate, that leaves a huge gap.
Right now, it's being done by a graduate student. Some of you may have had some interactions with him. If you've got issues with Purdue, please, not issues, but if you need help, ping me and I can ping Fu and others to try to get things done for you if you need to.
Yeah, the current student has a minimum programming background, so he can only do some basic maintenance, for example, adding new users.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to go much beyond that, right? Question for Karsten then on what's going on in IZM. Are they actually thinking of setting up database activities and programming activities to house and maintain at a common site there?
Actually, in a nationally funded project here, we are indeed looking into this, but it's not fully clear yet whether we go for hosting databases or if it will remain on a different level. So, well, in that sense, I will not step forward here. But we can discuss here internally if this could be an option if there's no other useful home for the estimator.
And if you did, or if IZM did, not you, but would that be the model be such that it'd be a membership kind of thing, or would there be like funding grants or something like that that would maintain this? How would that go forward?
Well, you're actually asking me for a full project proposal here somehow, and a business plan how to implement this. Can't tell you. We need to sort things out here. What is feasible and what is not feasible. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot, Kirsten. That's why.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely, we do. And speaking of putting someone on the spot, now it's my turn. So, I know there are, I guess from a standpoint of, we have a lot of industry here. We're talking like IZM, which is a research institute. We have Purdue, which is an academic institute. Are there either folks on the line that have some interest or have ideas of, are there industry players that would be of, I don't know that it makes sense for an industry person to host it, but are there industry players that are either contributing in some way to PIA or to IZM or to somebody that might be a more useful host? Is there more, is there an industry application that can help, potentially help either fund this or fund a date, the development of a common database? Are there thoughts from anybody about that? This is one of the things, because I've heard a little bit about that in the past, but nothing too much recently. So I don't know. I see like Amphenol's on the line. I see Autodesk on the line. I know obviously we've heard from IBM, Plexus, Nokia. So is there some thoughts from some of the industry players about that? I'm not sure if anybody from Jabil is on the line. I'm looking real quick. So comments, thoughts in that regard? I guess sort of another sort of side question to that is, this today is not something that iNEMI maintains. We're not structured that way. Our members haven't driven us that way. But is this something that's important enough that the members of iNEMI, which most everybody on the line here is an iNEMI member, there's a couple of folks I know are not, that would want to propose that iNEMI needs to find a way to fund this and run this and host this and so forth, knowing that obviously there'd be costs and things.
Well, there is that option.
It is an option.
We should look at all alternatives.
Yeah, it's a big. That would be a change to iNEMI's business model. I mean, ideally, it would be like it would be better to partner with through a grant or something that is forming its own little small company or something that would do it. I guess is for lack of a better term. So I'm just trying to poke different ideas that I've heard and see if anybody's excited. Excited about that. Nobody's.
I mean, I would still place it down, Mark, as a potential.
Sure. I mean, just things
we
to
can
think about,
further consideration on, and it doesn't have to be today, obviously, for people to step up, but amongst what we had just spoken about, different mechanisms and different organizations. I mean, this is something that you and I know we've been looking at for years, to try to find the perfect hosting location.
So I said Jeff, I guess, is having mic issues. He and he's with Amphenol. Said he think it could be valuable for iNEMI to host a database. And it's like, yeah, could be. It's maintaining it that becomes the big issue.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. So it's ideal to have a consortium in charge of the database.
Yeah, Yeah, you need an oversight committee. You need that kind of expertise and governance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, you know, a consortium or a partnership of some sort. Obviously, we've mentioned other tools that spend quite a bit of effort on building databases.
Right.
So perhaps, you know, there is I don't know, a partnership opportunity with them. It's like, hey, here is the ICT. We have an ICT focused analysis tool on the front end, and you guys, here's you know, develop a database or maintain a database that we could use, and there's some sort of shared money access. What I'm not sure what to potentially there. So I guess you know, we got about 15 minutes left. Are there, you know, from the folks that are here on the line, what are there some key things that you think, you know, we should do next? I mean, obviously I've heard, you know, a common contemporary data set is definitely one of the big ones. I think we've heard about the harmonization and the harmonization efforts with IZM, and I could see some further discussions there.
Right.
I'm just trying to think if we, you know, let me say not if, when we form a team that will be attacking this as a project in some way, are there, you know, what should that team be looking at trying to do? What are there top 3 things that we should be focused on? So I think obviously the data set is one for sure. Are there other really key things that folks think the the next iteration of this project team, whatever we may call it, should do?
I mean, is everyone happy with just keeping it to climate change, or do we want to really pursue water use and land use?
Yeah. So
I mean,
you know,
what are
so
your
we need
customers asking
Yep.
for, right?
Yep.
I
What are we going to
think,
call? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, our customers are rather focused on global warming potential, but I found it really relevant to focus also on water and land use, also from a research point of view, and also to make it a bit more focused on material efficiency and material consumption and water consumption.
Yeah, there are even some other indicators, you know, endpoint indicators, what they call, on biodiversity and nature. The term nature has been discussed by a number of our customers, et cetera. So how all of these midpoint indicators roll up into the endpoint of, you know, biodiversity loss and impact on, quote, nature.
So I have yeah, go ahead. Matilda.
Yeah, it depends if we focus only on companies, or which will be which have their climate neutrality goal, or if we also want to extend it to research institutes and so on, who usually want a little bit more, not focus only on global warming potential.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we one of the things we're getting is in the use stage, we find some customers coming to us and they say, well, they're 100% renewable now in what they're purchasing and their credits. So they say that's dramatically reduced their climate impact. But then we go, well, what about water use? What about, you know, other indicators, you know, eutrophication, things like that, and land use. Yeah. So
yeah, I think it would be, of course, as you already saw in this Excel, in your tool, you have much more information on global warming potential. So it will be also the first, I would say, impact in category that we can actually develop. But maybe we should be prepared to gather data on water and land use, even if they are not all complete, maybe.
right, yeah, to get a bit more of a rounded set of eco impacts, right?
Yeah, more
rather than just one. Yeah,
less granularity and maybe more assumptions, but at least, and it will be then also the goal is also to a little bit force or to help the industry to gather data on these 2 points. They are just not aware that it's relevant. So
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, like certain metals obviously have more land use impact than others, and if you're using recycled materials, you're dramatically reducing that. So it's a good way to demonstrate impacts in that area, right?
So Prashant also agrees with Matilda regarding material and water efficiencies.
Okay.
I also say I have seen I do environmental consulting, and I think Dustin mentioned EPEAT. I have seen requirements in EPEAT, especially the solar panel and the solar module part of that standard that exists now has some water requirements in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more water inventory.
Yeah.
So kind of a little beyond, but it's they're starting to dabble. Other standards are starting to dabble in this, specifying very specific things in this space. And also LCA. There is a requirement in EPEAT and others that they want an LCA of the product. They want that LCA to have gone through a third-party review. So that's a big deal. One of the, just sort of as a folks here, most of the folks on this call have both the database and the spreadsheet tool. I wonder, do we want to make sure we're continuing to support 2 tools effectively, I don't know. I don't even know what you want to say. They're not exactly front ends, but 2 different ways to consume the same information. Obviously, if we only do one, that could slightly reduce the amount of effort that's necessary. But I do know, sort of the way we built the tool in the past is we built a spreadsheet and then we turned it into the database. So it's like, if we say all we want to do is the database, we're probably still going to build a spreadsheet to support that. But I just wonder, is there value in both of those being available to you? Do you want to continue to see that, or are folks more really interested in one over the other?
Right. Yeah. We've used the spreadsheet as like a proof of concept tool in many ways with new things, just to trial it out and see how it looks, input, output screens and data behind it and everything. And then the purpose, as I said earlier, for the database tool is once you have something in there, you can just copy that very quickly and easily and use that for a different configuration or the basis for a different model or something. So it depends on what companies want and how they operate and the kinds of products they have. But certainly going from a spreadsheet to the database tool takes the big programming effort and the maintenance of that, and trying to deal with the security features behind it, because then you're just not harboring your own spreadsheet and keeping it behind your firewall. You're into using a database where you do have to have all the security features and the upgrades and anti hacking, et cetera, that you need to put in there. Firewall protection. Right? Yeah.
Yep, I say so. Dale said that he often uses the spreadsheet tool just because he doesn't have network access at times, and so he can do that on his computer. So that's certainly one thing.
Exactly. Another thing.
And then Justin, I see you've got your hand raised. Please identify yourself and ask your question.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is Justin Davis. I'm from Plexus, just as well, Dale.
Yep.
But yeah, one thought I had, right, is we're kicking off this thing using this LCA tool to look at a product and to essentially do the analysis, and then then do a quick like workshop on, hey, how can we improve certain parts of this project, right? And knowing at the two different versions, like the online tool versus the Excel sheet, right? In some of the videos you guys have had in the past, these webinars, it's like the online tool is very good for really large assemblies, right? Because you can do sub-assemblies, the configurations, and you can mix and match and move things around. And the
Right.
Excel sheet is a lot easier for quick what if, switching things out very fast. It has the nicer looking output. It's a little bit more user friendly. So I guess in my head, right, to me, it's for this thing we're about to tackle, it makes more sense to use the online tool. But again, it is, to Dale's point, right, you need the online access to it. It's not as easy and as quick and nice to use. But right, if we want to do both of these things on this project, then it's almost like we're going to use the online tool for one part, but then if we want to do some really quick, what ifs and switching things in and out, would we need to then import everything into the Excel sheet? Can we even do that? Like, can the Excel sheet nicely, support having, a whole HLA and then like 10 sub-assemblies, and those things have sub-assemblies, right? Like right now, I don't even know how to, increase the amount of space on the Excel sheet.
Right.
I don't know how I would use the Excel sheet to tackle something with a lot of sub-assemblies and HLAs. So it's almost like, while this having the ability to use something quick and easy, as long as it's up to date with all the data, is good. It's almost like if there was a more user-friendly, online tool that kind of looked like the Excel sheet, right? That was always up to date. It seems like that would be a really powerful tool, right? If you could almost like bring the two uses together in a way, right? Because now it's like, to the point, it's like, well, we can use Excel sheet again, it's quick and easy, but like, when was the last time this was updated? Are things out of date versus using the online tool? I'm not sure.
Right.
Having said all that, it's almost like if you could almost combine the ability and the speed of the Excel sheet and like the agility of it to online tool, easier to use, it would be super powerful, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hence, we bring in the super programmers who are capable of taking what's in the spreadsheet and mimicking that in the database tool, and then some. I mean, there are savvy people out there that they do. You see other products out there. So sure, it can be done. It's just the effort and obviously the cost, the resources. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good. Good points, Justin. That's what we want to hear. Make sure that this is, we're building the tools. If we need to focus one way or the other, this is helpful for us.
Right.
I do want to let all of you know, thank you for joining us, and that I will share these slides with all of you probably later today or tomorrow. And as we get to the point of writing the SOW for what the next phase of this work will be, I will certainly inform you that that's happening and invite all of you, and I hope more than one of you will join us, so that we can make sure that we are addressing the key things that you all want to see as well. And certainly more hands, more eyes, more thoughts, and more resources are valuable for making the next iteration of this activity be as good as we can and improve it. So I welcome all of you to join us. So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm going to turn it back over to Tom and see if he has any last closing comments or thoughts, and then I will let you all go.
I really appreciate everyone joining in and giving their input and reflecting their opinions on what we can do, where we should be able to go. And I think collectively, we'll take all this and then we'll determine, what's the next step, what's the next follow-up we can do here. Because obviously it sounds like there's a lot of importance here and a need. It's just how we move forward in the right direction and with the right resources. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to reiterate, if you've got further comments or questions or thoughts, please email them to me, and I will add them into our discussions. You should, like I said, I will send out this presentation here in just a bit, so you can certainly just do a reply back to it, and we may set up some other forums for folks to engage with us, trying to make it so that we are focused on the right things first as we go through the process of figuring out what is it that we need to do here to make this tool the most useful for all of you. And I think your suppliers now, I mean, we're hearing more and more of you really want and need your suppliers to be able to provide you this kind of data as well. So any last comments from anybody? All right. And Karsten, thanks so much for your additions on the harmonization. I think we'll definitely need to follow up with you on the activity that IZM is doing to make sure that we're all kind of working in lockstep together. And I'd say if anybody else needs to talk with IZM, let me know, and we can put you in touch on the efforts that they're doing as well, I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
And have a
Thanks.
nice
Bye,
day.
everyone. Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you.